We're going to start talking about solving systems of equations. This textbook uses the terminology solving linear systems, and basically we're going to be given two equations that are connected together and solve for x and y. There are several different ways to do this, and so we're going to walk through multiple ways to do that. Today, this lesson is setting these equations equal to each other, so I'll show you how to do this one. All right, so in order to solve it the way that this lesson is going to teach you, we are going to rearrange our equations so that they equal the same thing. Okay, so I'm going to rearrange this equation to y equals. Then I'm going to rearrange this equation to y equals. I could set them to the x, but x is not by itself. So I'm going to use the y because y is by itself. This will sort of make more sense as I'm going. So the first thing I'm going to do is set these both equal to y, which means I'm going to move my negative 3x over. Don't know why I put a plus 2 there, but I'm going to move my negative 3x over. When I move that over, it becomes 3. I'm going to move my plus 2 over. When I move it over, it becomes minus. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the bottom equation. I'm going to rearrange it so that y is by itself. I'm going to pick up my understood plus 2x. It becomes minus 2x. I'm going to move my minus 3 over, and it's going to become a plus 3. So I've rearranged both equations. The values are still the same. All of the pieces are still there. I've just rearranged them. And now I can set them equal to each other because they both are y. Y is the same thing as y, so I can say y equals y. And now I can replace those. That is a terrible box. I can replace those with this and this. And now I can solve for y. I can't do anything to solve for x or y here because there's two variables. By setting these equations equal to each other, I can now work an equation and solve this for x. Okay, I'm going to move this negative 2x over. I'm going to move this minus 2 over. Okay, my negative, oh goodness, I don't know why I wrote that. My negative 2x became a plus 2x. My negative 2 became a plus 2. Now 3x plus 2x is 5x. 3 plus 2 is 5. This tells me x equals 1. Now, I'm not finished because I have an x and a y, and I need to solve for both of those things. If I know x equals 1, and I know y equals 3x minus 2, I can plug that value in here and solve for y. Y equals 3x minus 2. Well, instead of an x, I now know that x equals 1. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 minus 2 is 1. So technically my answer is x equals 1, y equals 1, but we are going to write this in a point system. X, y. Technically what we have done, these both represent a line somewhere on a graph. Somewhere on a graph. Here's a line, here's a line. You have just solved for the point at which they cross. Now, I don't know what those lines look like. I don't know where that point is. Well, I do know where that point is now because we've just solved it. So this looks like a lot. We're going to do a couple of these. The math of this is not hard. It's just kind of strange. So let's do another one. Let's work through the classwork problems. There's 3 of them, I believe. There may only be 2 of them. My textbook looks weird. Nope, there's 3 of them. This is on lesson 51. I'm not sure the page number, but it's lesson 51. Work through the classwork with me. Do them in your book as I'm doing them, because that's going to be part of the homework assignment. So if you do them now, you'll get them right. All right. Here is, I'm going to do my best to handwrite them. X plus y equals 0 is our top equation. 2x plus y minus 3 equals 0 is the bottom equation. So here are our steps. Our first step, step 1, we're going to set them equal to one of the variables. We can pick if we want to set them equal to x or y. I always do my best to pick the ones that don't have a coefficient with them, the ones that don't have a number in front of them. Now, you have to set them equal to the same letter. If I set 1 equal to x and 1 equal to y, I can't say that x equals y to set them equal to each other. So, step 1 is to, let me get my pencil working. There we go. Set equal to x or y. Pick one, but do the same one on each equation. Now I can look at this and see that both of these have a y without a coefficient. So I'm going to set them equal to y. Okay? The top equation, if I move my understood plus x over, it becomes minus x. Technically I have a plus 0, but that's not going to change anything, so I'm not even going to worry about that. On the bottom equation, I'm going to move everything away. My understood plus 2x becomes a minus 2x. My minus 3 becomes a plus 3. So we have rearranged things around to where they're both equal to the same letter. And then my second step is to set equal to each other. Because they both are y and y are the same thing, so I can set them equal to each other. Y equals y. Y equals y, which translates to negative x equals negative 2x plus 3. I'm going to fix that. That's messy. Okay, so I've set them equal to x or y. I chose y. And then I set them equal to each other. And now I'm going to run out of space. I'm going to come work up here. My third step, I'm going to solve for x in this one. So I'm going to move my negative 2x over. When I move my minus 2x over, it becomes a plus 2x. So I have 3x equals 3 divided by 3 divided by 3, x equals 1. Now, it's just a coincidence that x equals 1, just so you know. Except I just realized I messed up. Hold on. This ain't right. Because I forgot. This is negative. There's a negative right there that I forgot. So let me start that part over. So negative x plus 2x is 1x, which is the same thing as just x. So x equals 3. Then the fourth step, I'm going to plug back in and solve again. I'm going to have to solve for x and y. If I know that y equals negative x, and I know that x equals 3, then y equals negative 3. I'm going to write my answer in a coordinate system. X is always first. So here's how I'm going to denote my answer. 3, negative 3. Let's do another one. All right, here is the second one. Now, if we were face to face, I would make you guys work this one all by yourself. or at least try it. Hold on, I can't talk and write. I would really like for you to attempt this one on your own, at least one step at a time, and then check your steps as you go with this video. So I've written it down. Your first step is to set these equations to the same variable. Now I'm going to give you a hint in that you have to be very careful because of this negative right here. All right, so what I would like for you to do, I can't obviously make you do it because I'm not there, is to attempt to set both of these equations equal to y. I could choose x, but both of those x's have a variable or a letter with, both of those x's have a coefficient with them, so it makes more sense to solve for y. So pause the video and solve those equations, and then you can come back and check it. Okay, let me do them real quick, and really solve for y is probably not the right term, but I'm going to rearrange these equations. So my top equation, though, is going to take a couple of steps, because if I begin to move everything away from that y, that minus that's with it sticks to it. So what I really end up with is my plus 6x becomes minus, my plus 6 becomes minus, but I have a negative here. Technically, I have a -1, and I'm multiplying that -1 times the y. So what I really have to do is divide everything by -1, which all that does is change the sign. If you have a negative with that y, just change the sign of every piece. And I erased that. Y equals 6x plus 6. My bottom equation is easier because it's a positive y. I'm going to pick up my minus 2x over. It's going to become plus 2x. I'm going to pick up my minus 2 and move it over, and it's going to become a plus 2. All right. So my second step is to set equal to each other. It's written terribly messy. 6x plus 6 equals 2x plus 2, and now I'm just going to solve for x. I'm going to move my 2x over this way, move my 6 over that way. Six x minus 2x is 4x. Negative 6 2 minus 6 is -4, which means x equals -1. So then my next step is going to be to plug that back in and solve for the other letter. If I know that y equals 2x plus 2, I'm just going to plug that x in. So y equals 2 times -1 is -2 plus 2, so y equals 0. Put them in the correct format, coordinate, which is x and y, and there we go. This third one is going to take a little more work, and I'm going to be honest with you. I pretty much never ever solve systems of equations using this method. There's another one that I use much more often, but this textbook starts here. You need to know how to do it, so we're going to do it. But you're fixing to see why I don't like it. And here's what I'm going to tell you. When you start your homework, do not get bogged down in all of this, because if I'm looking at these, I probably can already see an issue. Before, I had a y by itself, a y by itself. I don't have that option here, but I still have to solve one of these for either x or y. I'm going to do it the way your textbook does it, so that if you are looking at that, you can kind of see what they're doing. So what they have done is they are going to solve them both for y. they start by moving everything over. My minus x becomes plus x. My plus 1 becomes minus 1. But the problem is I still have a 2 here. So in order to eliminate that 2, I have to divide everything here by 2. Now, if I think for a few minutes, in front of this x is an understood 1. 2 over 2 goes away, so I'm left with y. Separate that fraction out from the variable. That is the exact same thing. That way you have a whole number and a letter. They need to be, while it's still one entity because they're side by side, I need to be able to see it as two pieces. So there's the rearranged first equation. Then I'm going to work this second equation underneath it. Same thing. My goal is to get y by itself. I'm not going to move the negative 2y yet, but I'm going to move the plus 3x over. It's going to become minus. I'm going to move my minus 7 over. It's going to become plus. Now I need to get rid of the negative 2. I am multiplying the negative 2 because two things side by side with no sign equals multiply. So to undo that, or to get rid of, or to move, or to eliminate, whatever vocabulary you're using, I need to divide by negative 2. So this kind of goes away. I'm left with y equals negative 3 over negative 2. Those negatives are going to undo each other and write them as two separate entities. And then 7 over negative 2 becomes negative 7 over 2. So here are my ugly equations. And I promise as you keep going, there is an easier way to do it, but you have to know how to do it this way. Also, and later you'll get to choose which method you want to use. So now I have these two systems of equations. They're already set equal to y. So now I'm going to set them equal to each other because they're both y. So I have 1/2 x minus 1/2. That's that equation. Equals 3 over 2x minus 7 over 2. That's that equation. I'm going to clean this up a little bit. Hopefully you wrote that all down. If not, back the video up and write it down because it's getting too messy on here. Okay, now I just solved for x. Listen to me. Just because there's fractions does not mean that it changes what we do. We still move our x's to the left, our whole numbers to the right. Because you're in Algebra 2, you have a calculator, so type it in if you need to. So I'm going to move my understood 3 over 2 over. It's going to become minus. I am going to move my minus 1/2 over. It's going to become plus. Now because I have a calculator, I'm literally going to type in 1/2 minus 3/2. I'm a complete doofus. Of course, that's negative 1x. Equals negative 7 over 2 plus 1/2, which reduces down to, it's technically then negative 6 over 2, which is 3. Now I can solve this by dividing by negative 1, and x equals 3. There's the first half of my problem. If x equals 3, I'm going to plug that value in. Now, I don't know about you, but I despise fractions, so I am going to plug this back in to this equation. I can plug it into any of these equations that I started with, but I don't really like those fraction ones that I manipulated, so I'm going to plug it in here. I should have looked at the one your textbook did and do it the way they did it, but oh well. All right, 9 minus 2y minus 7. 9 minus 7 is 2. Whoops, that should not be an equal sign. 2 minus 2y equals 0. Move my 2 over. Divided by negative 2, I have negative 2 divided by negative 2. So y equals 1. So my answer is x, y. Now, this is crazy, and I normally end up spending several lessons going over all of these. So, your job is to do classwork, which is number 1, and number 2 on lesson 51. I was going to make you do the whole thing, but that's really a lot of work, especially when you get to the third one on activity 2. So, homework is going to be for this lesson, classwork, or 1 and 2, classwork and activity 2 on lesson 51. So lesson 51, 1 and 2. It's not a lot of work. I used to assign a whole lot more of these the first time you did them, but it's easy to get bogged down in these. So there's 6 problems, and we just did 3 of them together. Try the other 3, and then we will look at them again later. Just kind of, I'm going to continually remind you of this week. We have a review next week, and then a test coming up the following week.